Mmm. Mmm. What is up, Netflix fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. I need you guys in the comments below. Have you seen this series? Were you looking forward to it? And are you enjoying it so far? And let's talk about it. So Age of Resistance returns to the world of Thra, where three Gelfling discover the horrifying secret behind the Skeksis' power and set out to ignite the fires of rebellion and save their world. So I went back and rewatched the original Dark Crystal a few days back, put out a review on my Patreon page just to refresh myself, get myself back into this world, and kind of focused on the fact that, hey, we have a prequel series coming out soon, and if you're asking, Austin, is it necessary that I have to watch the movie and then go into the series? I mean, it might be a good idea to watch it. It is on Netflix, so if you have access to the series, you're going to have access to the movie. I wouldn't say it's 100% necessary just because all of the events that happen in this show take place before the actual movie, so it could actually be cool watching this show and then going straight into the movie, even though you have the visual effects going from 2019 to 1982, so that might be a bit off-putting, but it is really cool to see all of those Easter eggs, and you get references and just things that you know about the movie. They do pop up in the show, so it might be nice to have, I keep contradicting myself, but it may be nice to have prior knowledge. Regardless, how do I feel about the original movie? Well, I acknowledge the fact that it is some of the best visual effects I've ever seen. Not CGI, I'm talking practical effects, especially if you look at when it came out, 1982. I mean, they were doing some really impressive things. I wasn't the biggest fan of certain characters in that movie. I thought the voice work was a bit off. You know, you have Frank Oz, who's always going to deliver, but other actors in that movie, they didn't really deliver for me. And overall, I liked the movie, but I don't hold it in high regard like a lot of people do, because if you grew up with that movie, if you saw it in a theater especially, you're absolutely going to love it, because from a technical level, it is a visual achievement for the time. So I went into this series really excited for it, because I thought with this new voice cast, they could improve upon some things that I didn't love about the original movie. And then, of course, visual effects-wise, the original was great, but now you have all of the technology up to date with the fact that you're still going down the practical effects route. Puppets, not CGI, folks, and there is absolutely CGI in here, but they don't overdo it in the same vein as other movies, fantasy-esque movies in the last few years have done, and to me, it kind of compromises the story, especially when you can easily do practical effects. We see it in something like The Lord of the Rings. Comparing that to The Hobbit, I think The Hobbit maybe overused special effects, overused green screen, CGI, whereas Lord of the Rings, they went practical with as much as they possibly could, right? With this thing, no humans, no CGI creatures, you are strictly dealing with puppets and practical effects with CGI elements in there, and from a visual standpoint, let me tell you, this series is remarkable. Now, the only issue I foresee people having is the fact that maybe the characters aren't as expressive as they could have been if it was, you know, a CGI show, or if they used actual human actors for the story, because this is a story, this is lore that you could integrate with any medium. I like the fact that they use puppets, because I find it so different and such a separate thing from anything else that I'm watching right now, anything else in pop culture within the last 5-10 years. It's just new, even though it's not new. It's an old concept, but it's done in a way mixed with fantasy elements that makes it feel new and makes it feel fresh. And this entire series, just the aesthetic and the look, it is so fresh, bro. But it really is, guys. It looks incredible. And one thing I was worried about in the first episode is the first episode's a bit more grayed out than the other episodes. So I'm like, hey, is the color palette really going to pop? But as soon as you start going on your adventure, and especially when we get to episode 5, and I'll talk about why here in just a bit, you really do start to see the color and the visual spectacle of this world, which is built in a way that just just blows you away, especially if you're a fan of the original movie, because what the original movie did so well is it established this lore that we never really got to dive into. The movie moves a bit quick, and you're like, all right, we're here, we're there, we're here, and then we're taking down the villains, and I'm like, I wanted to know more. I mean, I get why they didn't make a sequel, because maybe it wasn't as well received as it should have been for the time, especially when you look at what it actually achieved. But there's so much there that just never got explored. And they've been talking for quite a while, Jim Henson's company, when are we going to do this? Because we have the idea, we have the concept, we just need the money. Because for what we need to do, what is required, we have to have that financial help. I mean, it's just necessary to do something like this. And because Netflix swooped in and said, hey, we're going to allow you to do this, we're going to fund this thing, they did. And they don't just go out and make this incredible looking show. They get some of the best voice talent in Hollywood. Oh my goodness, this cast from Taron Egerton to Awkwafina to Mark Hamill, I mean, it is perfect. And one of the problems I have with the original movie is the fact that maybe the voice cast didn't measure up to the characters and the way the characters were written. Well, that writing kind of transfers to the show, but now you have a remarkable, and it's not just because they're famous, they really do cast individuals that have kind of the proper voice for the character that they're playing, especially when you look at a voice actor like a Mark Hamill. And you could probably anticipate what Hamill's voice is going to sound like, but he utilizes it in such a way, playing one of the Skeksis characters, it just comes across as creepy, and it goes along with the look of the Skeksis. And let's talk about the Skeksis before we get into the actual story. And they scared me in the original movie. There was some scary imagery, but oh man, do they scare me in this show. It is just, ugh. I don't know how people trusted them in the first place. I get it, they're kind of being brainwashed by these rulers, the people over them, but still, you just look at them, you're like, I don't think you're a good guy. Lena Headey, Jason Isaacs, Toby Jones, Keegan-Michael Key from Key and Peele. I could go all day with this cast because it's just ridiculously stacked. So if they would have botched this show, and they don't, if they would have botched it, I would have been like, that would have been such a waste of talent and just a waste of effort, because the effort that goes into something like this, and I don't know if you guys have seen the behind the scenes look into how they actually do this, because what they're doing here is difficult. You have to make these characters look like they're running. You have to make them look like they're battling. And when they're falling, I mean, there's just so much, and I respect everyone involved with this show, maybe more than I've respected anyone from any other show all year, just because of the time and effort. It's kind of how I feel when I watch a stop motion movie, because there's a lot of time that goes into that. Obviously, they spent a lot of time on this. They built the story for years and years and years. Austin, stop talking. Did it pay off? Yes. This show is magnificent. Once again, this is coming from a guy who doesn't put the original movie on this high pedestal. So while I expected to like this show, I'm like, yeah, it's a cool, you get to explore some fantasy elements. It looks like it has nice characters. I'm gonna like it. I didn't think I would love it to the degree that I ended up loving it. And a lot of that has to do with the characters. I mean, the writing here is so strong, and the tragedy strikes in each individual character's lives in such a way that allows you to gravitate towards them, even though, and I will admit, I agree with some of the concerns that there is a moderate lack of expression on the faces, just because we are dealing with puppets here. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? But that didn't bother me. I don't look at that and say, well, I don't feel the emotion from Rion when he's dealing with what he has to deal with in the show. And that really is the main storyline in the beginning, the fact that he is accused of murdering one of his fellow peoples, even though maybe he didn't do it. And that is the secret that he is holding until other people start to find out that, hold on, maybe he didn't do this. Maybe we are kind of being controlled and puppeted. But led to believe something for all of these years that just isn't true. And then you see kind of the beginning of the rebellion. I say the rebellion, I don't mean a rebellion like Star Wars. Well, I guess it kind of is. And the show and the movie, in a way, took elements from Star Wars, even though it came right after Star Wars, so I don't think it was just a ripoff. But movies afterwards took elements of the Dark Crystal, but now the Dark Crystal show coming out after that is taking elements back from those movies, such as, it was something simple like a Lord of the Rings or even a Dune, but it works so well because it's combined in such a way that makes it so different yet so familiar, but not in a way that it's compromising the story. And it all does come down to the story. Is this story interesting? And I absolutely say yes. You have this quest where everyone comes together, and around the midway point of the season, they discover what their mission is and what they have to do to reclaim power from the Skeksis. No, they're not recovering a shard, like what the mission is in the original movie. They are doing something a bit similar, but there are separate missions and separate characters that you follow. There is also a power-hungry princess that kind of gets in the way of a few things, and there are characters in there that meet their maker maybe a bit faster than you're anticipating. I'm not here telling you, oh, this is a kid's show, but I enjoyed it and I had fun with it, but there's no dark elements. No, there are really dark elements to this show. It's called The Dark Crystal, so clearly there are going to be dark themes, but oh my goodness, the impact that some of these deaths from certain characters had on me was ridiculously intriguing, but it affected me emotionally, and I wasn't anticipating it to be on this level of pure intensity, whether it is the death of a character or battles between good and evil. There's one battle, I believe it's episode 4, with a father and his son fighting this hunter character who I loved because he was so threatening, just the armor that he had on. But that battle is so intense, it's so emotional, and that's just one prime example of how the action between these puppets works so well. There are chase scenes where these really intricate vehicles, and I love the way that they move. They use these creatures to move as wheels, but it's rolling through the forest, and you have characters coming in to save another character. Not going to spoil who or what, but it is just so intense, and the visual just spectacle that you're getting from the fact that this is like nothing that you're seeing nowadays is interesting, it's captivating, and if you're on board with the story, it's everything you want it to be. And then you have the return of one of my favorite characters from the original movie, and that is Mother Agra. Yeah, you guys know who I'm talking about. She is so good in this series because she's really dealing with the fact that she did this in the first place. She thought it was right when she did it. She gave the Skeksis the crystal, but now she's regretting that decision, and she's fighting with herself while still trying to convince the Gelfling, hey, we have to come together, we have to do this, we have to spread the word, and let people learn the fact that the Skeksis are not who they say they are. They're stealing power, sucking the life out of our people, and it's bad enough when you have them forcing offerings out of their people when they're poor, and yeah, they're still allowing them to, I guess, eat and sleep, but they're still fighting with each other over food, and this is not the way to rule, and it's hard to kind of believe that people aren't realizing that, but I can get onto the idea because we've seen it before in real life, we've seen it in other movies, and yeah, people understand that this is their place in the world, and they're fed multiple metaphors throughout the entire movie, so I get it, but when people start to realize what is actually going on and what their master plan is to live forever, eternal life, I mean, it's nice to have, so clearly they're after that, and this battle that comes to a head, and the last few episodes for me, I was hoping we would get a nice payoff, and we absolutely do, but man, do I want to see more from this world, from this lore, from everything about this series. And when our characters come together for the first time, and I think it was episode 5, when they're in that dream world, and they're just combining efforts, they get their plans, and they head off in their separate directions, kind of feels like Lord of the Rings at that point. It just felt so epic. I'm like, yes, I know who these characters are. They've been built up so well to this point. It does take a bit to get there because it is episode 5 when that happens, but now they go off on their separate adventures and they try to carry out this plan. Guys, I could talk all day about this series just because I had so much fun with it, and we didn't even get in to spoilers. We didn't even start down that route. Listen, if you guys want it, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will keep my thoughts to this video, but oh my goodness, I'm going to go pretty high with my score once again. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you want to leave this video a thumbs up, it helps out this channel. Going 92% for The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. Such a fun time on Netflix. Loved it more than I thought I would. It really did surprise me, but in the best way. Once again, there is a review for the original movie on my Patreon page. You guys can go over there and check that out, as well as many podcasts and reviews. This last week, I think I uploaded like 5 or 6 things on there, and hey, We're doing t-shirts, so that's always fun. Speaking of t-shirts, you guys can go to the link in the description, but there may be some t-shirts and sweatshirts and long sleeves that I'm selling. If you guys want to buy one, it's a very easy and simple process. If you want to check that out, you absolutely can. And we hit 40,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. We're going to celebrate this weekend, a live Q&A, and we're just going to talk. We're going to have fun. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'll see you very soon.